I walked into Romano's Steakhouse, expecting nothing more than a quiet ribeye, maybe a beer, and some peace after a long day troubleshooting faulty wiring at my neighbor's place. My daughter Rachel had texted that morning, short and sweet, like always these days. "Dad can't make dinner tonight. Something came up with Tyler Raincheck." But there she was, sitting at a corner table near the windows, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Her husband Brandon, his parents, and enough food on that table to feed a construction crew. The sound of her laugh hit me like touching a live wire without proper grounding. Name's Richard Pearson, by the way. Rich to most folks. 58 years old, spent 35 years as an electrician before I retired last year. Built half the commercial buildings in this town, wired them from foundation to rooftop. Thought I'd earned the right to some honest conversations with my daughter. Guess I was wrong about that. I froze right there by the hostess stand, my jacket still damp from the drizzle outside. The smell of grilled meat and expensive wine filled the air, but all I could focus on was that table. Rachel had her hair done up fancy, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Brandon looked comfortable, confident, cutting his steak with the precision of a man who'd never worried about the cost of prime rib. Before I could process what I was seeing, Tony, the waiter I'd known for years, walked up with that familiar smile. Tony's been working here since Rachel was in high school. Good kid, worked his way through community college serving tables. "Mr. Pearson, good to see you." "Your usual table?" He paused, then added something that made my blood pressure spike. "Don't worry about tonight's bill. We'll just put it on your tab like always." Like always. Those words hit harder than 220 volts to bare skin. That emergency card had been for groceries when Brandon claimed he got laid off. For Tyler's doctor visits when their insurance had gaps. For the heating bill when their furnace supposedly broke down last winter. I'd handed it over without thinking twice, because that's what fathers do when their kids say they're struggling. Same way I'd given Rachel my old truck when she turned 16, paid for her college without asking for a dime back, helped with the down payment on their first house. I never asked questions, never checked the statements. Trust was something I'd built my whole life on. When a homeowner hired me to rewire their house, they trusted me not to burn it down. When I told them a job would take 3 days, they trusted me to finish on time. Trust was the foundation of everything I'd built. Looking at Rachel now, leaning over to whisper something to Brandon's mother Patricia, both of them laughing over some private joke, I realized those emergencies had been happening a lot more than I knew. And I'd been paying for a show I wasn't even invited to watch. I stayed put behind a potted plant near the hostess station, my tool belt instincts kicking in. When you find a problem in electrical work, you don't just start pulling wires. You trace the circuit first, figure out where the real issue is. Find the source of the short before you touch anything that might be live. My mind went back to the afternoon I gave her that card. She'd been standing in my kitchen, Tyler on her hip, looking exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Dad, I don't know how we're going to make it through this month." Brandon's paycheck came up short again. Her voice had that wobble it used to have when she was little and needed help with homework. I'd felt like I was doing what any good father would do. Opened my wallet, slid that silver card into her palm, told her it was for emergencies only. "I trust you, sweetheart. You're a good mother, a responsible woman. This is just until things get better. Trust." That word left a bitter taste now, like touching your tongue to a battery terminal. I thought about our Sunday dinners growing up, how she'd always ask for seconds on my famous grilled burgers. The way she'd brag to her friends about how her dad could fix anything that was broken. "My dad's an electrician," she'd say with pride. "He makes the lights work." When did I stop being the dad she was proud of and start being just the guy who paid the bills? Watching her now, animated and confident with Brandon's family, I couldn't remember the last time she'd looked at me like that. Like I mattered. Like I was worth impressing. When had Charlie Morrison, Brandon's father with his bank executive background and country club membership, become more important than the man who'd taught her how to change a flat tire? The waiter brought them another round of drinks. Expensive wine that I recognized from previous visits here. Bordeaux. The kind that costs more per bottle than I used to make in a day when I was starting out. The kind Rachel used to say was too rich for our blood when I'd offered to order it for special occasions. But there she was, Rachel Hayes. She'd taken Brandon's name when they married 3 years ago, sipping it like she belonged at tables where $100 bottles were just Tuesday night choices. Her wedding ring caught the light as she gestured, telling some story that had Patricia Morrison hanging on every word. I caught sight of Brandon raising his hand to flag down Tony. When he did, Light caught something gold on his wrist. A heavy watch, the kind with complications and Swiss movements that costs more than most people's cars. Not the basic Timex he'd worn to family gatherings for years. This was fresh out of a jewelry store display case. Still had that showroom shine. Something cold settled in my stomach like touching a metal conduit in winter. This wasn't their first rodeo at my expense. This was routine. This was practiced. They'd been doing this long enough to get comfortable with it. Tony walked by with a tray of desserts, and I caught his arm gently. How often have they been coming in? I kept my voice low the way you do when you're working in tight spaces and don't want to spook anyone. He glanced toward their table, then back at me. Few times a month, Mr. Pearson. Always nice dinners. The seafood tower, steaks, good wine, he paused. Yeah, we put it on your account, like you set up, like I set up. The phrase felt like a short circuit in my brain. I never set up anything. That card was supposed to be for groceries and emergencies, not entertainment for the in-laws. I thought about the past few months. All the times Rachel had called to cancel plans because Brandon was working late or Tyler was under the weather. The Sunday dinners she'd skipped because they were too tired to drive the 20 minutes to my house. Meanwhile, they'd been here living it up on my dime. Probably that same week I'd eaten a frozen dinner alone, wondering why my daughter seemed too busy for her old man. I remembered when she told me their oven was broken. This was maybe 6 weeks ago. I'd offered to help with repair costs, maybe even buy them a new one if the old unit was beyond saving. But she'd waved me off, said they were making do with the microwave and takeout. We're learning to be more creative with meals, Dad. It's actually kind of fun. Funny how she'd failed to mention the filet mignon and lobster tail kind of creativity they were exploring. The more I watched, the more details jumped out. Patricia Morrison's handbag sitting on the floor beside her chair, leather that looked expensive, the kind with designer stitching that costs more than some people make in a month. Charlie Morrison's suit jacket hung on the back of his chair, tailored perfectly, probably custom made. These weren't people who needed my daughter to treat them to anything. These were people who could afford their own damn dinners. But here's what really got to me. The way Rachel was performing. That's the only word for it. She was animated, gesturing with her wine glass, telling stories with the kind of energy she used to save for family gatherings. The Rachel I remembered from childhood, before marriage and motherhood and whatever disappointments life had handed her, was sitting at that table entertaining people who weren't even her blood relatives. I walked over to Vince Castellano, the manager, known him since Rachel was in high school. He'd started as a busboy when his family immigrated from Italy, worked his way up to owning a piece of this place. The kind of man who understood the value of honest work, same as me. Vince, I said quietly, I need a favor. Could you print me the recent charges on my account here? His expression shifted. Everything okay, Rich? That's what I'm trying to figure out, I said. The account's in my name. I've got the right to see what's been charged to it. He nodded slowly. Give me a few minutes. While I waited, I watched their table more carefully. Rachel was showing Patricia something on her phone, both of them laughing so hard Rachel had to dab her eyes with her napkin. When was the last time she'd laughed like that with me? When was the last time she'd wanted to share anything with me that didn't involve asking for money or canceling plans? I thought about Tyler, my grandson. 2 years old now, just starting to talk in full sentences. How many times had I offered to babysit so Rachel and Brandon could have date nights? How many times had she said they were too tired, too stressed, too busy? But apparently they'd had plenty of energy for regular dinner dates with the Morrisons. That stung worse than the money. The money was just numbers on a statement. But the time, the experiences, the conversations I'd been excluded from, that was time I'd never get back. Time I'd spent wondering what I'd done wrong. Why my daughter seemed to drift further away each month. Vince came back with an envelope. This covers the last 4 months, he said. Rich, I hope everything works out. I opened it right there at the bar. The numbers hit me like a power surge through defective wiring. September 8th, $480 an ideal $85 anniversary celebration, premium wine, seafood platter, desserts for 4. September 22nd, $392 Sunday brunch with champagne service, multiple courses. October 6th, $456. Business dinner, dry-aged steaks, cocktails, after-dinner drinks. October 20th, $398. Wine tasting dinner, 5-course pairing menu. November 3rd, $367. Casual Friday dinner, appetizers, entrees, desserts. November 17th, $445. Birthday celebration for Patricia Morrison, cake service, premium bottles. It kept going. Every date matched up with a night Rachel had been too tired to visit, or Brandon was working overtime. The total made my chest tight, $3,200, over 4 months. Not groceries, not Tyler's medical bills, not emergency repairs or gas money. Pure indulgence, the kind of dining I'd maybe treated myself to twice a year when I was working full-time and pulling in decent money. But what really burned was seeing birthday celebration for Patricia Morrison on that list. Patricia's birthday. They'd thrown Brandon's mother a party on my credit card while I'd spent that evening alone, not even knowing it was happening. They'd sung happy birthday to another man's wife with my money, shared cake and champagne and family memories that I wasn't part of. I thought about my own birthday 3 months ago. Rachel had called, said they couldn't make it over for dinner because Tyler had a runny nose. I'd understood. Kids get sick, plans change. I'd ordered Chinese food and watched a baseball game by myself. Told myself that's just how life goes when your kids have families of their own. Now I knew where they'd really been that night. Probably right here, toasting someone else's celebration while I sat home with takeout containers and wondered why family seemed to matter less every year. The worst part wasn't even the deception, it was the replacement. They hadn't just excluded me from their lives, they'd actively built a new family structure with my money funding it. Charlie Morrison had become the father figure at their dinner table. Patricia was the mother-in-law who got birthday parties and champagne toasts. I was just the bank account that made it all possible. I could have walked over right then, could have made a scene, thrown the receipts on their table, demanded answers in front of God and everyone. But 35 years of electrical work teaches you patience. You don't just flip breakers randomly when you find a problem. You isolate the circuit first. You control the power. I pulled out my phone and called my bank. The automated system put me through to a real person after I explained I needed to freeze a card immediately. Mr. Person, we can freeze that card effective immediately. Is there fraudulent activity? You could say that, I said. How soon can you make it active? It's frozen now, sir. Any attempt to use it will be declined. I checked the time, 8:47 p.m. I looked back at their table. They were just getting their main courses. Charlie was cutting into what looked like a porterhouse steak, probably the most expensive thing on the menu. Brandon was explaining something to Tyler, who was sitting in a high chair between his parents, playing with crackers. Plenty of time for the lesson to unfold naturally. I ordered a coffee at the bar and settled in to watch. Not for revenge, for resolution. There's a difference. Revenge is about making people hurt. Resolution is about making things right. From my spot, I could see everything. The way Brandon cut his steak with the confidence of someone who'd never worried about the cost. How Rachel gestured while telling some story, her new bracelet catching the light. I'd never seen that bracelet before either. Silver and what looked like real diamonds, the kind of jewelry that doesn't come from department stores. Patricia and Charlie Morrison nodded along like they were watching their own son succeed in life. And in a way, maybe they were. Brandon had probably told them he was treating them to these dinners, playing the generous son-in-law who'd made good in business. They had no idea they were dining on the foundation I'd built, brick by brick, wire by wire, over 35 years of honest work. I thought about Charlie Morrison, Brandon's dad, retired bank executive, the kind of man who wore suits to casual dinners and talked about market opportunities over coffee. Brandon hung on his every word like Charlie, was dispensing wisdom from on high. When had my own son-in-law stopped asking for my advice? When had my daughter decided that Charlie's approval meant more than mine? Probably around the time she realized his stories came with inherited wealth instead of earned calluses. I pulled up LinkedIn on my phone and searched for Brandon Hayes. There it was, right at the top of his profile. Promoted to Senior Account Manager at Henderson Marketing Solutions, August 2023, 8 months ago. 8 months of lying about being unemployed, about struggling to make ends meet, about needing help with basic expenses. I scrolled through his posts. Pictures from company events, celebration drinks with colleagues, professional headshots in expensive suits. One post from 6 months ago caught my eye. Grateful for this new opportunity and the chance to provide for my growing family. He'd been providing all right. Providing entertainment for his parents while I provided the funding. The comments on that post were telling. Congratulations from co-workers, family friends, even Patricia Morrison herself, so proud of our son-in-law, like they'd had a hand in raising him, like they deserved credit for his success. I thought about the promotion party they probably threw for him. The celebration dinner, the toasts, the proud parent moment, all funded by me, all happening without my knowledge. I'd probably been home that night watching television, wondering why my family seemed too busy to include me in their lives anymore. Tony appeared at their table with the check. I watched Brandon reach for his wallet with casual confidence. Same wallet, same motion he'd made dozens of times before when spending my money. My card came out like it belonged to him, like it had always been his to use. The card that was now dead as a disconnected circuit. I watched Tony walk away, return to the kitchen, then come back. The conversation was brief, but I could read the body language from across the room. Polite confusion, a second attempt, more confusion. Brandon's face went from confident to concerned. He said something to Tony, probably asking him to try again. Maybe the magnetic strip was dirty. Maybe the machine needed a reset. These things happened sometimes with older cards. Tony disappeared again, came back with the same apologetic expression. This time Brandon pulled out his phone, probably checking his banking app to see if there was some kind of technical problem. Rachel leaned forward, her forehead creased with worry. She whispered something to Brandon, who shook his head and showed her his phone screen. Patricia and Charlie exchanged glances, the kind married couples share when they sense trouble but don't know what kind yet. Their son-in-law, who'd been confidently picking up dinner tabs for months, suddenly looked like a man who'd discovered his parachute had holes in it. That's when Brandon did something that confirmed everything I'd suspected. He pulled out a different card from his wallet. His own card, the one he'd probably been saving for real emergencies. The one connected to his actual bank account. The one that would show exactly how much money a senior account manager really had available for luxury dining. I watched him hand it over to Tony with significantly less confidence than he'd shown with my card. This time, his hands weren't quite steady. This time, he was playing with money that actually belonged to him. But even from across the room, I could see the calculation happening in his head. A $500 dinner bill split among his salary, his actual expenses, his real financial obligations. Without my card as a safety net, this meal represented a significant dent in his budget. The kind of expense that would require explanations to his wife, adjustments to their monthly spending, maybe even skipping a few meals out to balance the books. Tony came back again, and this time the conversation lasted longer. I saw him lean down to speak quietly to Brandon, saw Brandon's shoulders tense up. Even his backup card wasn't going to cover this. Senior account manager salary or not, Brandon Hayes was about to learn the difference between living within his means and living within mine. Rachel was digging through her purse now, pulling out her own wallet. But I knew what she'd find there, the same thing she'd found every month when she called me for help with unexpected expenses. Not enough. Never enough. Because they'd been living above their pay grade for so long they'd forgotten what their actual pay grade was. Charlie Morrison was reaching for his jacket, probably getting ready to step in and cover the bill himself. The successful bank executive riding to the rescue of his embarrassed son-in-law, but I wasn't going to let that happen. This lesson needed to land on the right people. That's when I stood up and walked over, having some trouble with the check. I asked, settling into the empty chair next to Charlie. The silence that followed felt like the moment right before a main breaker trips. Everything went quiet, waiting for the power to either surge back or cut out completely. Rachel's face went through 3 different shades of pale. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I placed the envelope of receipts on the table, right next to her wine glass. "Same thing you've been doing for the past 4 months, apparently. Having dinner. Except I figured it was time I joined you, since I've been paying for it all along." The receipts spread out slightly when they hit the table. Columns of dates and dollar amounts in black and white, impossible to explain away or misinterpret. "This," I said, tapping the papers with one finger, "is every charge on my emergency card for the last 4 months. 3,200 worth of meals I wasn't invited to, wine I didn't get to taste, and conversations I wasn't part of. All while you told me you couldn't afford to visit your old man for Sunday dinner." Brandon tried to speak, but I held up my hand. "I gave you that card when you said you were struggling, said Brandon got laid off. Money was tight, just needed help with basics." I looked directly at him. "Funny thing is, I checked your LinkedIn profile this afternoon. Congratulations on your promotion to senior account manager 8 months ago, by the way. Must have slipped your mind to mention that." Patricia Morrison's hand flew to her throat. Charlie's jaw tightened like someone had just told him his investment portfolio had crashed. Rachel looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Tyler, blissfully unaware of the tension, continued playing with his crackers, occasionally babbling to himself. "You want to know why the card got declined?" I continued, keeping my voice level because I froze it about an hour ago. Figured if you were going to spend my retirement fund on impressing your in-laws, I should at least get to watch the show. Tony appeared at the table's edge, check still in hand, clearly wishing he was anywhere else in the world. Poor kid was probably wondering if he'd accidentally wandered into someone's family therapy session. The bill comes to $680, I announced to the table. That split 4 ways comes to $170 each. Charlie, Patricia, I'm sure you understand. Fair's fair. Charlie Morrison, for the first time since I'd known him, looked genuinely uncomfortable. The man who'd spent decades making financial decisions for other people suddenly found himself on the wrong end of an accounting error. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but they were the calculating kind. The ones that used to work when she was 15 and got caught sneaking out. Dad, please, we can explain. Nothing to explain, I said. Standing back up, numbers don't lie, unlike people. I watched them scramble through wallets and purses, watched Patricia reluctantly pull out her credit card while shooting confused glances at Rachel, watched Brandon's face turn red as he realized his secret was out, his promotion exposed, his careful construction of lies crumbling like a house with faulty wiring, watched Charlie Morrison's opinion of his son-in-law readjust in real time as he processed what he'd just learned. The successful businessman who'd been treating them to expensive dinners was actually a fraud, financing his generosity with someone else's money. The funniest part was watching Rachel try to maintain her composure while her carefully constructed image crumbled. She'd built this whole persona on my foundation, and I'd just pulled the main breaker. But as I watched my daughter fumble for explanations, watched my grandson continue playing innocently while the adults fell apart around him, something shifted in my chest. This wasn't just about the money. This was about a family that had lost its way, forgotten its values, gotten confused about what really mattered. I thought about the conversation that would come later, after the shock wore off and the real work of rebuilding began. Because despite everything, Rachel was still my daughter. Brandon was still Tyler's father, and Tyler was still the innocent kid caught in the middle of adult failures. We'll talk tomorrow, I said to Rachel as the table scraped together enough plastic to cover their bill. All of us, but from now on, we talk honest. I left them there to figure out their own problems, walked out into the cool night air feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because I'd hurt them, but because I'd stopped letting them hurt me. The drive home gave me time to think about what came next, the phone calls that would come, the explanations, the apologies, the promises to pay me back, but also the chance to rebuild something real, something based on honesty instead of transactions. Love without respect isn't love, it's just expensive charity. And I was officially out of the charity business. When I got home, I sat on my back porch with a beer and thought about the lessons my own father had taught me. How to work with your hands, how to solve problems systematically, how to respect people who earn their way in life instead of taking shortcuts. Somewhere along the line, I'd forgotten to pass those lessons on. I'd been so focused on providing for Rachel that I'd never taught her to provide for herself. So worried about her struggling that I'd made it easy for her to take shortcuts. But it's never too late to flip the right switches. Sometimes the power needs to go out completely before you can wire things correctly. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Dad, please call me. We need to talk. I finished my beer first, then I called her back, because that's what fathers do. They answer when their kids finally ask the right questions. But this time, the conversation would be on my terms with honest voltage running through every word. After all, I didn't spend 35 years learning electrical work just to let someone else short-circuit my family. The line between helping and enabling runs through every parent's heart. I'd just learned where to draw it. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your generosity was being taken advantage of? Where family members treated your wallet better than they treated you? I'm curious to hear your stories. What would you have done in my position? How do you draw the line between helping family and letting them walk all over you? Leave me a comment and let me know what city you're watching from. Sometimes the hardest lesson we teach our kids is that respect and love go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.